Tuesday morning. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. Right now, just breaking, we got the homes sale reports out there. I'll just give you the highlight here. It's literally just breaking as we went on air. Home sales surged in May to the highest levels since December, according to CNBC there as well. So we'll get you that reporting here as it's just breaking right now. Oil is down today. Of course, around the ceasefire that reportedly is coming there in the Middle East. Chip stocks still rebounding today as well. We'll get you updated on all that with the Market Watch, stocks we're paying attention to, and of course your national, local stories that you need to know as well. So let's get right into it with that Market Watch. So U.S. crude oil, well, it's down to $88.64 here this morning per barrel. Brent, well, that's the national or the international benchmark. It's down to $91.86 per barrel today. Oil is falling today and still in these areas. Now, President Trump did tell reporters late yesterday that the deal to end the war with Iran could come in 2 or 3 days. We've heard that a lot. And then he also said that in this agreement, the Strait of Hormuz would open immediately. Well, that's kind of what's leading those oil prices down today. And look at this market. Chip stocks rebounding. We'll look at chip stocks later on in the program. But Dow Jones right now is up to 415 points to 51,172. The S&P 500 is up 57 points to 7459. Then you got the NASDAQ out there up 209 points to 26,139. And then the Russell 2K, the small cap index, 66 points up to 2921 here this morning. Bitcoin, no rebound at all. Yesterday it was in the 63,000 range. 62,274 is where Bitcoin is at today as well. And it's interesting. I was reading some stories and things about where people are pulling their money out of Bitcoin and putting them in related stocks out there for Bitcoin, coming down, of course, from that 78,000 number that it was trading at for a couple weeks as well. So here's the deal with the cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin lost about 27% of its value in 2026. It's about 50% off its all-time high, which we know was 14,000 or something to that effect as well. They're not getting out of Bitcoin per se or cryptocurrencies and everything. The iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF is among the top 20 most popular tickers in the options market by volume. 2 of the top 15 largest option trades by dollar amount were Strategy and Coinbase on Monday as well. People are not getting out of the cryptocurrencies market. They're just getting out of Bitcoin right now and moving into other strategies in the cryptocurrency era. And right there, Bitcoin, 62,147 for it here this morning as well. Stocks we are paying attention to here. We're going to look at a company called Nuvalent here first. They're up big today, 38.91%. They're a U.S. drug maker. Well, they're going to be a U.S. drug maker for not too much longer. Well, because they're up 38.92% because a UK-based biopharmaceutical company called GSK, they announced an agreement to acquire Nuvalent for $10.6 billion. And so that is why Nuvalent's way up today, 38.91%. Now let's look at J.M. Smucker's company. They're up today as well, 9.45%. Yeah, they make Smucker's jam, Jif peanut butter, among other things. They reported their fourth quarter results that did top expectations. Their earnings were $2.77 per share. The expectation was only $2.64 per share. Revenue was $2.27 billion. The expectation was only $2.26 billion. I picked this stock as something to pay attention to. One, up 9.32%. But is this also saying that with grocery prices going higher, people eating out less, people going back to the basics, right? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and those types of things, as J.M. Smucker's up today with their reporting as well. Then there's a company called SailPoint. They're an identity, data, and security intelligence platform. If you look up what they're But they're listed under here. Well, they're down 9.98% today. Well, they issued lackluster full year guidance, but its first quarter earnings did exceed estimates. But their guidance is their problem. They expected adjusted earnings of 30 cents to 34 cents for the full year ending January. Analysts, well, they wanted 32 cents. So, the guidance is right in the middle there. Expected revenue of 1.265 to 1.275 billion dollars for the full year came in the low range of that expected 1.27 billion. SailPoint, security intelligence platform, down big today, 9.04%. Just the stock we're seeing, at least on the downside here in that stock as well. Later on, when we come back, we'll look at those chip stocks again. We'll look at Micron Technology, Qualcomm this time. We'll throw them in there. And then, of course, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, is what we'll look at again coming up later in the program. So, in terms of the home report that literally came out right as our front credits were rolling, well, existing sales were 3.2% higher in May than the year before. The median price of an existing home sold in May was $429,300. That's a 1.3% increase. Inventory in May did rise 3.3% month to month. It's at 1.55 million units for sale. But existing sales 3.2% higher than the year before, and mortgage rates still staying above that 6% level out there, as that is not changing. I'm trying to get the update here. We see the inventories increase. We see the deal. So at the current sales pace, there's a 4.5 month supply. 6 months is considered balance between buyer and seller. So it is getting closer to that 6 month level here with this reporting as well. So there's still a tight supply out there. Prices, obviously, as I said, continuing to rise as it's up to that 429,300 as well. So I'm trying to see just really quick, and I don't know if I can find it fast enough here. I cannot find the interest rates right now, mortgage rates out there. But sales of homes priced above $1 million, they were 11% higher than the year before. While sales of home price between 100,000 and 250,000, well, they were down 5%. First-time buyers did return to the market with this reporting. 35% of sales were first-time home buyers. That's an increase from 33% in April, 30% just last year in that same time frame. Home stayed on the market an average of 29 days. That was down from 32 days in March, but still up from March of 2025. That was 27 days that year. So about a quarter of all sales were made in cash, quarter of them, which usually means investors, at least in this marketplace, is kind of what that means out there. So there's your home report that just broke here as we were going on air. So some highlights there for you, and I just couldn't find the what the interest rates were in that month, the average rates. I know it's above 6, probably, was it 6.5, was it 6.2, 6.3? Trying to find that average number there, and maybe if I find it during the show, I'll get it out to you as well. But now to go to some stories around the government side first here. Now, this is a macro job cut story, and companies announced 97,006 job cuts in May of this year. That's an increase of 16% from April, and an increase of 3% from the same job cuts announced last May. Now, according to a recent report by our favorite, executive firm, Challenger Gray and Christmas, they came out with these reporting here. And what was the main reason for those layoffs? AI. Yeah, AI is the leading reason cited for job cuts for the third consecutive month. 38,579 cuts are contributed to AI. That's the highest monthly total for that reason since Challenger began tracking it in 2023, and it accounted for 40% of all job cuts announced in May. AI is reportedly taking jobs out there, right? We all know that is happening. The tech sector, well, they announced 38,242 job cuts in May. That's the highest for that sector since August of 2024. This year, tech firms have announced 123,653 cuts. That's an increase of 66% from the same period last year. And of course, it leads with those numbers, it leads sectors and job cuts this year by a very large number for them out there. The transportation sector announced the second most job cuts in May. They had 6,909 cuts. So their 2026 total was 40,388, increase of 449% from the same period last year. Service firms cut 6,268 jobs in May. It brings the sector's total to 17,065. That's a decrease of 61% from last year at the same time. Healthcare and product manufacturers, they've announced 30,414 job cuts here in 2026. That represents a 17% increase from the same period since last year. Bankruptcy-related layoffs were the second leading total cited for job cuts. Those accounted for 5,637 job cuts in May. So it's AI, bankruptcy-related job cuts. That's the most bankruptcy-linked layoffs since February of 25. Back then, 35,172 layoffs were announced. Market and economic conditions have been cited for 69,645 cuts just this year alone, while closings accounted for 66,733. Mergers and acquisitions, well, another 11,989 in that same 2026 timeframe. The number of job cuts linked to mergers and acquisitions is up more than sixfold. Yeah. From last year, there was only 1,889 job cuts last year in that same mergers and acquisitions category as well. So AI continuing to be the main leader here in layoffs in, obviously, the tech sector, leading that as well. And then yesterday, big news here in terms of company stuff. Apple had their big get together do on their software side of things. Yeah, Apple unveiled its new artificial intelligence advances, including upgrades to its Siri assistant. Hey Siri, emphasizing a focus on privacy, day-to-day use, as Apple tries to catch up to its rivals when it comes to AI, and they are way behind their rivals in their artificial intelligence. Siri AI was introduced at the start of Apple's annual Worldwide Developers Conference yesterday. This is all yesterday. It's been highly anticipated by users and developers. While Siri was launched way back in 2011, it is far behind other voice assistants, and even the most hardened Apple fans make fun of and can't stand Siri and how primitive it is. In its last WWDC featuring CEO Tim Cook, remember he's retiring, he's turning the post over to John Timus in September. Cook received an extended standing ovation and told the audience he is, quote, deeply grateful to have been on this journey with you. And he said Apple, quote, has the energy, or said, quote, the energy around Apple, let me get his quote right, platforms have never been stronger. The conference drew developers from about 65 countries up there to Silicon Valley headquarters of Apple. It focuses on the software side of their business. Of course, the hardware side is the one that's done. Was that around October timeframe as well? That's where you get the iPhones, iWatches, iPad announcements, computer announcements. Apple has sought to distinguish itself from its peers. They want to stress privacy-centered approach and integrating AI across devices and apps. There was no mention of AI superintelligence or any chatbots. There was some rumors about that. But Apple sought to demonstrate how the AI tools can make life easier. Apple's doing a different strategy from everybody else in that AI space, right? Apple's software chief, his name's Craig Federighi, he said at Apple, quote, we believe that truly helpful AI should be centered around you and your needs, not just a generalized chatbot that does all. Just what are your needs out there? So that basically means, and they demonstrated this yesterday multiple times, integrating AI into the products that people use every day. And of course, with the focus on privacy is what Apple's stance is. The conference did a lot of unveiling around Apple Intelligence. That was first announced back in 2024. There's some lawsuits about that with Apple because it just didn't roll out the way that they announced it would. Now, don't forget, it now uses Google's Gemini AI model to help power its features and processes users' requests and interactions on their own devices and privately on the cloud. So that makes them inaccessible to anyone else. You go on to OpenAI or ChatGPT and Claude, for instance. Well, all of that can be seen by other people. Apple, specifically for you out there with the privacy side. At the center of the new Siri, which Apple said is now a much more capable assistant, well, it can now help users find what they need and get things done across various Apple devices. One of the examples they gave, it can create a menu and gather recipes from the web or from your own text messages as well. It can just find that. So if you want to do let's say, a World Cup viewing party, this was an example they gave as well. You can then go to your chats, your text messages. You can create the World Cup viewing party, invite friends from a group chat, all through their AI and Siri model. Siri mode on your camera, meanwhile, can tell you what you're looking at. It even gives you relevant information, such as nutritional details. If you just take a picture of a plate of food, supposedly it can do that. Yesterday on the demonstrations at work, we were watching it. Apple also announced improvements to its popular AI photo editing tools. So spatial reframing that lets you adjust how a photo is framed after it was taken, and it's basically does it as if you had moved the camera to a better position while you were snapping the picture. So AI adjusting your pictures for you now as well. A standalone Siri AI app will launch later this year. Apple said it will not initially be available in Europe, and it won't be available in China, all because of those regulatory issues Apple has to work through out there. But coming to the U.S. here, coming up here shortly as well, and with the iOS 27 coming that way. So Apple, with their software development, trying to catch up on the AI side. I do like the individuality of it. Obviously, we all like the privacy of it, but the individuality of it. So, I don't have to, like ChatGPT, for instance, you type all that in. Other people can see what you're typing in. They can look for it. This is just a more private side of things. Not that I'm doing anything dastardly, but I just don't like everything being out there for the world to see on what we are all doing out there. Now, let's go more to a global side of things right here. We know a lot of movement is back to coal here with the Trump administration. And now we're getting numbers here of that global offshore wind capacity. It's set to quadruple over the next decade. It's going to reach 420 gigawatts by the end of 2035. We get this reporting here by the Global Wind Energy Council, and they put this report out earlier today. They also said 92 gigawatts of offshore wind was installed by the end of 2025. That's enough to power around 100 million homes. More than 327 gigawatts of new offshore wind capacity is forecast to be added in the next decade, taking global offshore wind capacity to 420 gigawatts by the end of 2035. We're talking big numbers here in the wind side, and this is the offshore. So like you see there in your picture, middle of the ocean stuff. More than 50 gigawatts of offshore wind projects are currently under construction around the world. Annual installations are expected to double this year and even triple by 2031. They say it'll surpass 50 gigawatts per year by 2035 with those numbers. So what countries are behind this? We know the United States is focusing more on coal now than on wind and solar with the Trump administration. Well, China accounts for 52% of the global offshore wind market. They overtook the Britain back in 2021. Germany, the Netherlands, and Taiwan are also among the top 5 countries for offshore wind installations as of now as well. So a lot of countries still focusing on those offshore wind pipelines. And here in the United States, we're kind of getting away from it right now as well. And look, it's summertime here. If you're traveling soon, maybe you have a ticket for one of these flights, or maybe you want to look at one of these flights out there. Now, none of them from Sky Harbor, but American Airlines is temporarily suspending 6 domestic routes this summer as elevated fuel costs linked to obviously the Iran war over there continue to pressure carriers across the airline industry. So American Airlines said we've seen this with smaller airlines or budget airlines. Not seeing it too much on these bigger ones out there. We're seeing it on the regional air, like Delta Regionals cut some flights because of this. But the first major airline that I can think of that's doing this, American Airlines said the affected routes will be paused only during August and September, and they emphasized that no routes are being eliminated permanently. A separate report from a company called Simple Flying, they said the routes will be out of service from August 5th through October 5th, so 2 months. According to Simple Flying, the affected routes include a lot of LAX flights here: Los Angeles to Cleveland, Los Angeles to Columbus, Los Angeles to Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, these are all LAX, to Washington Dulles as well, all being temporarily paused here August, September, and October. Charlotte to Ontario, so Charlotte to Ontario, California, there. Charlotte to Sacramento, also on that list of those 6 flights being moved because of gas and fuel prices out there coming up here over the summer. So just make that aware if you have family in those areas, traveling and might be on those flights. You can need to change your flights, obviously, as they've already announced it out there. The bigger thing is we're starting to see major airlines put aside some flight routes with the gas and fuel prices, what they are now. They've already raised their baggage rates. They've raised prices to kind of combat it. Still starting to move away from some of those routes here for a few months. Now, the Fed meets next week here coming up. It'll be the first one there with Kevin Warsh as the Fed chairman there. And he's getting a pretty strong signal from the $31 trillion Treasury market. Yeah, they have just an unbelievable message they're sending through the market for Kevin Warsh's Federal Reserve. And that message is interest rates aren't high enough. Bond markets, Treasury yields are advocating that interest rates need to go up. Now, Kevin Warsh's stance is they need to go down. Getting some pressure here going to next week's meeting. Yields on policy-sensitive U.S. 2-year notes, they've surged to their highest level in more than a year after a lot of economic data led traders to price in at least 1/4-point rate hike as soon as October. So it's about 4.15% right now. The 2-year yield trades well above the Fed's current policy band of 3.5 to 3.75%. This divergence off of the Fed's current policy for that 2-year Treasury yield began back in March. The reset upwardly only intensified last week. That was all because the job growth topped all forecasts, reinforced a growing conviction that rates need to rise in order to rein in inflation pressures and temper the risk of an AI-induced boom overheating the economy. That's what the markets are telling the Fed to do. Reports due later this week on consumer and wholesale prices in May will come out here this week. They're expected to provide further validation of rate hike is needed here coming up. The rise in U.S. yields has extended across the entire Treasury curve, creating a charged backdrop for Fed policymakers and their new chairman. Of course, as I said, Kevin Warsh is his name. He helms his first meeting and press conference next week. So he's advocated a lot for the case for easing rates and continuing to lower the interest rates out there based on the view that policy was restrictive. But he's facing a market right now, and specifically bond market, increasingly concerned the Fed may be getting behind the curve. A number of central bankers who are also worried about inflation don't rule out future hikes in the future. So he's got some competition in his voting members there that have signaled price hike might need to be coming. So big test here for him as his first meeting as Fed chairman coming up next week. And look, the message is being sent pretty strongly, price hike next week. We'll have to see if they do, in fact, go through with that, keep it the same. I don't think a lowering of the Treasury, of the interest rates will be happening, even though there are multiple people on the Fed now pushing for that. I think you're going to continue to see the pressure of a slight rate hike, all to rein in inflation, by the way, is what they're kind of doing out there. And here's an interesting story if you're an astronaut, and I believe NASA's naming the Artemis 4, I think it is, the next ones to go walk on the moon. I think they're announcing the astronauts going to be doing that here later on today, if I remember correctly. It's coming up soon. But now those astronauts might be up in space in style. Of course, Prada, the Italian fashion house, They have joined up with Axiom Space, and they've unveiled a jointly developed next-generation lunar spaceship layer that's scheduled to be worn during NASA's upcoming Artemis 4 moon landing mission. That is targeted for early 2028 in terms of its launch. So it's a liquid cooling and ventilation garment. They call it the LCVG for short. It will act as an inner layer of the spacesuit. It will protect astronauts when they explore the lunar surface for the first time in more than 50 years, according to their press release. The partnership marks the first time a luxury fashion brand has been directly involved in spacesuit development. The garment's designed to be thermally regulating and comfortable enough to support spacewalks lasting up to 8 hours. It also withstand the harsh conditions on the lunar South Pole. According to the announcement, the LCVG pumps cool water through a network of tubes positioned over major muscle groups on the astronauts. It's going to draw heat away from the body and release it into space. It also includes a backup cooling system in case the primary system does fail. The garment also features a separate ventilation system that continuously circulates oxygen across the astronaut's face. So it doesn't just sit there on the mask. It removes exhaled carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is then routed into a life support system for filtering and reuse. Now, that's the inside, right? They'll wear that over their bodies. Then, of course, they have the bigger space. That was actually unveiled a year or so ago on the new spacesuits on the outside there as well. So Prada getting involved with the space system now as well. And, hey, you're in space, got to look fashionable, got to feel good, spacewalk good, right? Hey, when we come back here at McCollum on Business here on this Tuesday, we keep it rolling. We got some U.S. Department of Agriculture, some recommendations for ranchers here in Arizona due to that screwworm. We'll tell you about that, plus some other things. Plus, we end the show with 2 drinks. One healthy, one, I don't know, not healthy, but one that you might have some fun with. We'll tell you about that coming up, folks. Stick with us. McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business, Tuesday edition. Of course, as soon as we get done here, we get this show up on demand on the YouTube channel and over on Rumble as well. All of our programming is on demand at YouTube, TME Media AZ, well, except for the Real Matrix. That and everything else is over at Rumble, rumble.com/user/TME Media is where you can find it over on Rumble. Of course, all the shows except for this one have free podcasts out there. Of course, as soon as we get done here, we get this up on demand, going to the main event. Me and 17-year NFL veteran Dale Hellestrae gets you updated on the sports world. We have an NBA series finally here as well. D-backs get back underway today as well. After the off day yesterday, hockey back underway. Lots to talk about around the sports world. Catch us live here on YouTube, 8 to 10 a.m., TME Media AZ. And, of course, on demand. If you miss us live, catch the free podcast systems. And for those of you I'd rather listen to the program if you're out driving around out there. We get that up as well after the live show here on YouTube. Everything's over on the Rumble page, including the pit stop, which does come out on Wednesdays. New episode tomorrow as well. We look back to racing last weekend, ahead to the racing this weekend. Going to be a great show coming up as Denny Hamlin got the big win there at Michigan. Tied a gentleman that just unfortunately just left us here on this world a couple of weeks ago. So emotional outing there. We'll talk about all of that there on the pit stop. Catch that on demand as well. Wednesdays. It's usually up by 1:30, 2 o'clock there on YouTube, TME Media AZ, as well as on the Rumble page as well. And don't forget, follow TME Media AZ on X as well. Just gives you updates on the shows. We're posting. We don't post a ton to it. We don't, we don't evade everybody, but we do put show notes up there and what's coming and what we do around here as well, and keeps you updated on our company here as well, what does all the production here of our shows. And of course, don't forget the Real Matrix every Friday at noon. They're right in the middle of a Charlie Kirk series. Episode 2 of that Charlie Kirk series did come out last Friday at noon. It's up there at Rumble. Check out the podcast, of course. Just search the Real Matrix Angry Patriot. New episode coming this week at Friday at noon as well. So make sure you check that out on Rumble or that free podcasting systems. And folks, hey, it's a good day on the market with the housing reports out. Housing sales are up. Oil is down. Chip stocks rebounding. We'll check into those chip stocks in a minute. But first, let's get into that market watch. And I did look it up, by the way. Today is the day we should be hearing what astronauts are going on that Artemis 4 mission. Dow Jones right now, 343 points up right now. The S&P 500 is up to 27 points. NASDAQ's up only 2 points right now for the NASDAQ. It's trading at that 25,932 as of right now. So everything is, actually, I can tell you this. Some of these numbers are, nope, everything's correct there on your screen. I apologize. I will tell you the NASDAQ, though, has gone negative here 1 point here as I just got the update. The Russell 2K is up 41 points right now. I know chip stocks are rebounding, so something else is taking that NASDAQ down here today. Then, of course, Bitcoin continuing its free fall. Look, just since we looked at it last hour or the beginning of the show, a half an hour ago, 61,566 for Bitcoin. And I told you at the top of this hour, people are taking money out of Bitcoin specifically. The Bitcoin ETF is up, which has a bunch of cryptocurrencies in it. Strategy, Coinbase are all up. People are moving their money out of Bitcoin, staying in that field, in that category, just moving it to other entities right now for those cryptocurrencies. Home sales surged in May to the highest level since December. We gave you that as that story broke at the top of the hour as well. So oil is down $91 for the U.S. intermediate, $88 for the U.S. intermediate. The Brent crude, the international benchmarks at $91 per barrel right now as well. Stocks we're paying attention to. Well, I've been telling you stocks were rebounding again today. So let's look at them. Micron Technology is the first stock we're going to pay attention to. Barely up here, 0.26% right now. Yeah, NASDAQ's gone down and gone negative, so apparently the rebounding of these chip stocks has slowed down over the last hour of the market being open. Micron Technology was up bigger earlier today. Then it had the big sell-off and kind of rebounding back up if you look at the graph there. They had a 10% number yesterday, up yesterday. This, of course, comes after that went down about 20% in 2 days last week. It was 7% down on Thursday, roughly 13% down on Friday. Yesterday, up 10%. Well, today was up bigger, but now only 0.34% up right now. Then there's Qualcomm we'll take a look at as well in this chip stock thing, down 5.70% here. So it looks like the chip stocks went from a positive rising number here today on its continued rebound. It looks like it's all going negative here as these stocks are trending down to, if they're not in a negative like Qualcomm, close to it, like the Micron Technologies. Then let's look at Advanced Micro Devices, AMD as well. Apologize, folks, I got the hiccups. 0.82% down now. This has had big sell-offs here as the day has gone on. So chip stocks, I told you at the beginning of the show, we're having a rally. They were at that time, folks. You can see the graph there. And then there's been a giant sell-off in these chip stocks as trading has happened here throughout the day. So that's why NASDAQ kind of going to the negative side of things is, let me refresh this here. NASDAQ is down, 24 points down right now as it continues to go the opposite way the NASDAQ does here as the day goes on as well. So chip stocks doing what they do lately. Big downs, big ups, big downs again. And we'll see where today ends up with them as well. And let's get into some local stories out there. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they put out the recommendations to ranchers here in Arizona because of those screwworm sightings that have happened over in cattle in Texas. Now, if you don't know, the screwworm is a fly larvae. It can burrow into the flesh of warm-blooded animals, and they threaten the U.S. cattle supply. Cattle is where you most often find them, but it can be in other warm-blooded animals as well. Cattle, as we all know, is already at record low, leading to what we're seeing right now is the increase in the meat prices out there. Going to get worse if the screwworm really takes off. Yeah, we haven't had screwworm in the United States since the 1960s. I think it was 1966 was the last time. No cases of the screwworm have ever been reported in Arizona, but the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, they put out guidance for ranchers here in Arizona to protect against the screwworm moving forward. They suggest things like monitoring the feral swine population that's highly susceptible to the screwworm, as well as cleaning out brush and disposing of animal carcasses. So that way you don't attract flies to those areas. In the statement, the Natural Resources Conservation Service in Arizona did say that they are prepared to offer technical assistance and resources to ranchers along the southwest border as cases continue to appear in Texas. So they're trying to get ahead of it here. Obviously, we know they're treating the screwworm there in Texas by putting in the sterile flies and hoping they mate, and that'll kill them off. How it was eradicated back in the 60s here as well. And hey, let's go up north here to Flagstaff area, Pine Canyon. I don't know if you've ever played there. If you have, you're a special person in life. It's a luxury golf community up there in the Flagstaff area. Well, it's partnering with private aviation service Prism Jet. Going to slash travel times from about 2.5 hours by car from Scottsdale to about 30 minutes by air to get up there. Yeah, if you've ever said, I want to go up there and play golf in a high-end resort, just 2.5 hours in the car is too much time to spend. You can now fly private up there as well. The service is meant to mirror ride-sharing apps. Trips bookable on the Pine Canyon app with a short notice of 48 hours. Customers will fly on private jets ranging from a King Air 350i to a Global 5000. Charter flights from Flagstaff to Las Vegas in Southern California. We can also take those if you'd like as well. In addition, the addition of the flights comes as the course, it recently got through a renovation. Let's put it that way. $6.4 million renovation to renovate that 19-hole course. It's on about 600 acres up there. Biggest renovation to date, and that renovation means come golf with us and spend your hard-earned money. And if 2.5 hours via car is too much time for you, that's your private plane, bookable on their flights. Just want to make it aware for you in case you have the ability to do that. Hey, don't forget, we are getting closer and closer to Buc-ee's grand opening. How big is this going to be? Well, I think it's a dumb thing. I'll just, I'll stop by on my way out of town, maybe. I just don't think this is that big of a deal. But people lose their mind about Buc-ee's, and I get it. It's opening on June 22nd out there in Goodyear. Well, they're starting to give us warnings here on what to expect as it opens. Yeah. These, if you want to be a part of the festivities of its opening, well, get there early, plan on tracking your patience, and expect heavy traffic in the area. So it's going to be at I-10 and Bullard Avenue is where it's going to be. It's going to officially open its doors at 6 a.m. on that June 22nd. Well, the parking lot will open at midnight. You're going to go hang out and wait till 6 a.m. A ribbon cutting ceremony will take place at 8 a.m. Various city and Bucky's representatives will speak. The east and westbound I-10 off-ramps at Bullard Avenue, well, they will be reserved only for Bucky's traffic. They'll be the only way to access the center on that day. Once you exit the freeway, cars will have to follow a 6.5-mile route south of Bullard, past Van Buren and Yuma Road. Then you'll loop back using Lower Buckeye Road, and you'll be led straight back toward the Travel Center's parking lot. You're going to need gas just trying to get there, even if you came with a full tank. All Goodyear businesses located along the designated route will be open still as normal hours. The eastbound I-10 ramp at Australia Parkway, it will be closed for the grand opening coming up as well. So plan ahead, folks. Or here's an idea. It'll be there a week later. Wait a week and go out there. You don't have to be there for the grand opening. Hey, 2 drink stories coming up for you here to wrap up the show. You guys know Tom Brady, right? All winningest quarterback of all time. Some say the GOAT. All of that good stuff. But he's also a big businessman out there. And his latest business venture, Tom Brady, is hitting the beverage shelves, all in a market that's expected to reach $11 billion by 2030. Yeah. Now, Brady has a partnership with GoPuff. They announced the launch of Good Nut. It's a premium line of organic or coconut water. They announced this all yesterday. All over the social media craze there as well. Consumers are conscious right now of seeking less processed, low-sugar beverages. That's all over the rage that everybody wants. And the market for coconut water does continue to rise at astronomical levels. GoPuff, well, it's a commerce leader in this space. It identified that customers who were buying coconut water, sales are surging 115% year over year just on the GoPuff platform. Forget about everybody else involved in this. So obviously, Tom Brady and GoPuff saw an opportunity, and they're capitalizing on this shift to the coconut waters. Brady has always been one to think about everything that goes into his body. And he does say coconut water is something he aligned with quickly. The idea for this beverage began because chocolate coconut water is a staple in the Brady household. Goodnut uses organic Vietnamese coconuts, delivering a clean, refreshing hydration experience in its cans, which is an 11.8-ounce can, by the way. It also comes with 3 variations: original, chocolate, and sparkling coconut water. No, thank you. Goodnut is available exclusively on the GoPuff website, $3.29 per can. Discounted pricing of $2.96 per can if you're a FAM member on the GoPuff platform. Coconut water's all right. I'm not going to go crazy for it. I've never tried chocolate coconut water. Maybe I'll have to try that. But sparkling coconut water? No thanks. I don't need my water to be bubbly. Seriously. All right, we're going to go from healthy drinks, folks, here to not so healthy drinks. Those of you know about tall boys, even if you don't drink, you know about a tall boy. Yeah, well, Coors Light's taking that and putting it on steroids here. They're expanding on the tall boy concept, all because of the 2026 FIFA World Cup that gets underway here this weekend. So on Tuesday, this morning, well, they debuted a new taller boy canister. Look at that sucker right there. It's a limited edition, taller than a tall boy canister, designed to hold and chill 3 full Coors Light cans at once. The taller boy can is the latest extension of Coors Light soccer campaign ahead of the World Cup. Yeah, earlier this summer, they launched that Coors Call, a summer-long campaign featured legendary Argentina soccer announcer Andres Cantor and his iconic goal cheer. Coors Light fans can get the taller boy exclusively at shop.coorslight.com. $30 is what that taller boy cost you. It's just so amazing. It's going to drop on June 11th and again on June 18th. Now, while supplies last, get on that website, folks, and get yourself a taller boy. More goals, more celebrations. Coors Light. I'm a soccer announcer. It's amazing what they think of. Folks, appreciate you joining us here for McCollum on Business here on this Tuesday. Main event coming up next. Ann says that looks ridiculous. Are you talking about the Coors Light or the coconut water? Or Tom Brady? I think he looks ridiculous. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. 7 a.m. McCollum on Business. The main event coming up next. Have a great Tuesday night, everyone.